Well, we hope you made it, or we hope you're making it through to the fantasy championship. We got some Saturday, Sunday, and Monday games to talk about because it's the NFL. And of course, you can't live without it any single day of the week. Chargers and Patriots up first. It doesn't seem like J.K. Dobbins is going to be back just yet.
Yeah, he's going to probably be back for the playoffs. If they can get to the playoffs, they need to win one of the last two games. Before we jump into this, I do want to say, if anybody has access to the schedule makers at NFL, what is it, 345 Park? We're already going to go through some games where motivation is questionable, handling injuries, that's changing. Christmas, throwing a monkey wrench into everything. Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. If we just don't have week 14 buys next year, then this can be a much more comfortable week. But it's not comfortable for the Chargers, who need to win. Beating New England, well, New England played Buffalo pretty tough. Justin Herbert is a good play this week. It's going to be warm in Foxborough. I think it's going to be about 50 degrees, which is unseasonably warm. Gus Edwards, like you said, Cease, without J.K. Dobbins, we saw Gus Edwards get 2 short touchdowns last week. He's a what-the-heck flex. Of course, Lad McConkey, that number one receiver, not future number one receiver, current number one receiver for Justin Herbert, as he is ahead of schedule. McConkey, this team is ahead of schedule with Jim Harbaugh. Now they need to close the deal to get to the playoffs.
Yeah, close the deal with your Patriots. Which Patriots are you picking in championship week? And who was Kendrick Bourne recruiting? He was recruiting someone. T. Higgins, I think it was, right?
Right?
He's like, come on over, Drake May. So the future is what we're thinking about New England. I'm thinking about learning how to speak English. But in this week, you may be thinking of, I don't know who.
Yeah, and New England is trending towards a top 3 pick. Of course, they can still play spoiler. Drake May throwing more effective downfield, so he's a more suitable streamer for this week. This could turn out to be one of the better offensive games of the week. Ramondre Stevenson, just a what-the-heck flex. You're still on that roller coaster ride with him, scoring touchdowns, losing the ball in the end zone. Kayshon Boutte is getting some praise, and again, with Drake May throwing downfield more, he's the downfield target. He had a big week last week. He's a what-the-heck flex this week, and make sure he's not on your dynasty waiver wire. Again, a 22-year-old who was only kept from playing time by, only the best wide receivers in the NFL at LSU. So if he was fitting in with those guys, Brian Thomas, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, he was fitting in with them at LSU, he could fit in the NFL on our dynasty rosters, and Hunter Henry's an okay play. So New England, sees for a 3-win team, the Patriots fans have to be feeling about as good as they could have hoped going into the season.
How is New England going to be okay weather-wise? And our next game is going to be crap weather. So if
Hmm.
you had Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, hell, maybe Cortland Sutton and Bo Nix, Denver and Cincinnati, let's do this all in one. And I know it's a
Sure.
Broncos show, Bloom, but the weather's supposed to be terrible. Rain, we know that Bo Nix has not yet shown he can be productive in condition games. Go back to the Jets game earlier this year. So both sides will be affected by Mother Nature. So maybe you got here and you're not dancing with the guys you got here with.
Yeah, this is tough. Rain, it's not high wind, but rain in the forecast, potentially heavy rain. I think up to half an inch of rain, and it is forecast for the afternoon, evening. So this one's going to go right up until game time. It probably will get heavier as it goes on. So if it's already raining at game time, I guess the question ceases, how aggressive do we get? We know we're going to play Chase Brown. There's no way you're going to put Jamar Chase on the bench. Even in the rain, he does a lot of damage after the catch. T. Higgins, if you start 3 wide receivers in a flex, it's hard to keep him out of the lineup. Same with Cortland Sutton, just because you know that Bo Nix can get it in his vicinity. Uh, Now, Denver still needs to win, but they play a Kansas City team next week that has locked up the number 1 seed. Although, when we have these divisional matchups in week 18, motivation, sometimes keeping your opponent out of the playoffs can be motivation. I think Bo Nix trends away from being a streaming quarterback going with the weather. It's really tough to say bench Joe Burrow. It's really tough to say bench him for an Anthony Richardson or for a Drake May, for these boom bust type picks, Caleb Williams. It might be a little bit easier to say bench him for someone with a high floor, say a Jared Goff. Can you tell I have to choose between Burrow, Goff, and Richardson in one of my few championship games this week? So I think what we're going to say is wait until game time and see what the weather is like in Cincinnati. If it's not raining too much yet, then against this Denver defense, which we saw positively addled by Jameis Winston. So you can put this defense in a blender pass wise and really get them running and running the wrong way. So I do think it's tough to say bench Joe Burrow in this one, but if it's pouring down rain at game time, we might just have to do that.
Might just have to do that. One more Saturday game to get to because yay, Saturday, Arizona and the Rams. Is Trey McBride ever going to score a touchdown?
Right.
Like, seriously. And we could probably double up on this game too, Bloom, about Arizona and the Rams, divisional game, what's on the line, and who are you going to start from both sides?
Yeah, and this one, Arizona is playing spoiler. They're out of it. Although I think the Rams can still win the division if they beat Seattle next week. First time around, Kyler Murray to Marvin Harrison Jr. in one quarter was a massive connection. So maybe break ties in favor of Marvin Harrison Jr. This one's playing indoors. Kyler Murray, again, Kyler Murray versus Joe Burrow. Maybe you go with Kyler Murray here as a high ceiling play. James Conner and Trey Benson were both limited after leaving the game with injury last week. If Connor's in, he's got to be in your lineup. Let's just watch this one as we get the final practice reports today, Thursday, as we record. On the Ram side, I don't know how you can put Matthew Stafford in the lineup after the two stinkers that he just put up. I think he could have a good game against Arizona. Arizona's defense, not necessarily an easy out, at least versus the pass. You know you're going to see Kyron Williams get 25 carries. And Cease, I do want to say, since this is the last true fantasy football week of the year in terms of redraft leagues, one of the trends this year, what did we learn? Teams can give, Cease, we look at a running back like Kyron Williams, Jameer Gibbs, Devin Achan. We say, well, for fantasy, they might be a wide running back one because they'll get a lot of receptions a la Austin Eckler. No, now we're seeing teams with these 190-pound, 200-pound running backs at the most, probably at this point in the year, under 190 pounds, and they're working them. And Kyron Williams has held up. So Kyron Williams is in your lineup, the small running back. And Cooper Cup, is he in your lineup? He's a wide receiver 3 flex. I think his upside indoors is probably too good to leave on the bench. And of course, Puka Nakua is emerging. And if Cooper Cup is not with this team next year, Puka Nakua is probably going to be a top 5 fantasy pick. He's been worth that since he's come back from his knee injury.
Okay, Sunday, we're finally here. We made it, and we've got another game where, excuse me, we could have both sides in one take. And in fact, the
Yeah.
next couple of games will be like that. But it's Jets and Buffalo. We know about the Jets side. We're watching the practice status of Brees Hall, of course, again. The Buffalo side, this one's at home, and I think weather's going to be a factor in this one as well. So does that slow down Josh Allen? I mean, could you go into this week thinking, maybe I don't play Joe Burrow. Maybe I don't play Josh Allen. So, and well, you're not playing Aaron Rodgers, most likely, but it's Jets and Bills, same at the same time. Because listen, the season started with some stinkers. Season is ending with some stinkers too. Thanks, NFL.
Yeah, not exactly Pete Rozell's vision coming to fruition, as we could see a lot of the playoff field decided, but not a lot of division winners decided, not a lot on the line in week 18. In this game, there's not very much on the line for the Jets. Aaron Rodgers suffered ankle injury last week. We may see Tyrod Taylor here, who would be quarterback 2 super flex material. We know he can add some value as a runner. He's got those good receivers. Obviously, your outlook for Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, Brees Hall a little lower with Taylor, but they all belong in your lineup. And Taylor is one of the more functional, competent backup quarterbacks out there. The Jets want to make the Bills sweat because the Bills still have to win a game to avoid becoming the number 3 seed. Is that important? Well, it would just be the difference between playing Baltimore in Baltimore or playing Baltimore in Buffalo. You might say that's important. So the Bills, while they can't get the number 1 seed, they do not have the number 2 seed locked up yet because they lost to the Bills. Now, Buffalo's going to play New England again. They just barely beat New England last week. So we're going to see Josh Allen. Now, could we see Josh Allen just until they open up a lead? Could we see Josh Allen in the first half? Certainly possible. Now, I'm not going to get cute with it. I mean, if I took Josh Allen and I took Baker Mayfield as my backup, maybe I'm thinking about Baker Mayfield. If I have Jaden Daniels, I'm thinking about Jaden Daniels. We're not going to go down too far in our tiers because Josh Allen in one half can get it done for us. Now, can Khalil Shakir get it done? Can Dalton Kincaid get it done? Very questionable. They didn't get it done for us last week. James Cook, that's the one player you can really count on in this offense. He's had a breakout season, and he could be the one player that we see ice this game if it's not Ray Davis and Ty Johnson, what the heck flex types. Again, as Buffalo tries to make sure there's 2 home games in the playoffs for them this year.
Okay, home game in New Orleans, Sigmund, and it's Raiders and it's Saints. And, well, once again, we've
Right.
got some stinkers here. We actually will do our normal preview for a couple of these games. This one, no. It's
No,
Raiders Saints.
no.
For who, for what?
For the color combinations, are these the two best color combinations? These the
Yeah,
black and silver and the black and
yeah,
the old gold. That's what
yeah.
it is. It's a uniform contest. It's a fashion contest. Always in fashion in New Orleans. Aiden O'Connell throwing to Brock Bowers. That's in fashion. Both of the running backs flex plays. Ceiling flex plays, honestly. Amir Abdullah and Alexander Madison likely to get fed in the passing game. Both of them had touchdowns last week. This is a game the Raiders playing themselves out of position to get one of the top two quarterbacks. Jacoby Myers is the toughest call on the Raiders side as you're looking at downfield passing with Aiden O'Connell. Not so much. Can it get worse for the Saints? That's the question. Can it get worse? Probably not because they're not playing the Packers. They're not playing in the cold this week. Don't think we're going to see Alvin Kamara. So Kendrick Miller, just a what the heck flex. We did see some Jamal Williams and some Jordan Mims last week. Foster Moreau. Is Chris Olave going to play? I doubt it. Maybe. I mean, if Chris Olave's out there, it's hard to put him on the bench. But with Spencer Rattler throwing him the ball, maybe you go with the Raiders defense. Maybe you go down, get a po' boy, Johnny's po' boys. You need some tips. I'll give you some tips. But don't watch this game.
How about this next game? Colts and Giants. Now, the Colts side has some fantasy assets that you'll be interested in. The Giants side, less so. Again, both at the same time, please, Sigmund, and
Yeah.
thank you. And
Yeah.
I believe Richardson's coming off a game where he threw 11 passes.
Right.
Is he going to throw more than that? Now, he can still be fantasy relevant because of those legs, girl. But, like, all right, against the Giants, against that weakened defense, Richardson could thrive. Although, have to check the weather because this one's back east.
Yeah, I think should be okay in East Rutherford. See, she got me thinking about Easy Top now. He's got legs.
Legs.
He knows how to use them for your fantasy team. Had one touchdown taken off the board last week. Indy still very much in the playoff race. They're the tops team with 8 losses right now. And if Denver loses out, or if the Chargers lose out, more likely that it would be Denver than the Chargers. The Colts can sneak in the back door for that 7 seed. And Anthony Richardson's there for a ceiling, but like you said, Cecil, he's only throwing the ball 11, 13 times. There's very low floor there. If Jonathan Taylor gets all the touchdowns, he's got a high ceiling. Josh Downs, a what the heck flex. On the Giants side, do we know who the quarterback's going to be? No. Do we care? Not really. Maybe Tim Boyle is better for Malik Neighbors, and Malik Neighbors is in your lineup no matter what. Indy's defense is in your lineup no matter what. And Tyrone Tracy, we saw that wide receiver pedigree with that wonderful toe tap touchdown in the back of the end zone last week. So he's still getting 65% of the snaps, probably enough in this game to justify him as a flex spot. Not what we were picturing when we saw him really surging earlier in the year. Wandale Robinson, deep what the heck flex. Most important thing for the Giants, just keep losing. You get that number one pick, and the Giants fans start studying up on these quarterbacks, and Cecil's going to be there to help us in the offseason. Matt Waldman, RSP. It's almost time.
Yeah, Shooter Sanders and like six other Buffaloes will be at the Shrine Bowl. So, yeah, that's going to be fun. Obviously, you know where my head's at. Dallas and Philadelphia, Bloom.
Mm,
Okay. CD Lamb playing through a painful shoulder injury. Another issues, Sigmund,
yeah,
as we sit here and complain. Apologies to everyone that were complaining, but like there also was a lot of teams who took Christmas Day off. So our practice reports as we record on Thursday morning to talk about games on Sunday are like, well, the CD Lamb didn't practice because of this painful shoulder that he's playing through, but it was just an estimation because
right,
they actually didn't practice.
right,
So thanks for that. Probably a dozen teams I was writing up yesterday for practice reports. It's like, oh, well, they didn't really practice, but they had to have a designation because of gambling or whatever. So Dallas side, it's like CD Lamb with the shoulder. Philadelphia side is like Jalen Hurts is not going to get through concussion protocol, but Kenny Pickett has a rib injury. So this one's complicated on both sides. And it's further complicated because, well, we don't really know who's going to practice. I don't think Hurts plays, could be wrong.
right.
I do think Lamb plays. Let's talk about this NFC East showdown.
Yeah, this one's a knot to untie because, like you say, and again, public service announcement. If you know anybody in scheduling in NFL, tell them Just no week 14 buys. We can have week 14, 15, 16 playoffs, and then all this week 17 stuff next year. We don't have to worry about it. Uh, Dallas is playing hard for Mike McCarthy. Now all of a sudden, see, some month ago, if you said Mike McCarthy's going to be back, yeah,
Right.
No. Mike McCarthy, especially Bill Belichick, taking that job. Not that anybody wanted him, but you were looking for a splashy name. It's true, and I'm not the only one saying it. You looking for a splashy name? Probably not. Dallas playing better, but who do we trust in this offense? You got to play CD Lamb, right? We come back to the what can you live with test. I can live with losing because I played CD Lamb.
Right.
I can't live with losing because I didn't play CD Lamb. That being said, he could be a decoy. That would mean Josh Ferguson, a what the heck tight end this week. He had 6 catches last week. He's back in our sights. And Rico Dowdle, I think Rico Dowdle is as simple as this. If Jalen Hurts doesn't play, it's going to be a more competitive game, and Rico Dowdle is going to be a good play. If Jalen Hurts does play, then maybe Dallas gets run out of the building. Maybe not, though, again, as they're playing hard. I think that you saw Kenny Pickett can at least pick lock on that guy, stare him down, and you can stare down AJ Brown and still throw the ball to him, and AJ Brown's going to get open, especially on Marshawn Lattimore. So AJ Brown's in. Devontae Smith is probably in, just because again, Devontae Smith could have a big game, even if it's Kenny Pickett. Saquon Barkley. Here's the interesting question: Saquon Barkley needing 268 yards to break Eric Dickerson's record. Do the Eagles go for it? Is this a classic banana in a tailpipe setup where you're working Saquon Barkley? What do you really have to gain here? There are some ways for the Eagles to get the number 1 seed, but they're remote. So again, the tough questions for Nick Sirianni, who almost got in a fight with Zach Ertz after the game. What? Coaches and players? Real revenge game if Washington and Philadelphia can meet again in the playoffs. So there's some interesting stuff. Maybe not in this game, but about this team, the Eagles, as they head to the playoffs.
A actual normal game that we're going to talk about both sides separately because it's Carolina and Tampa Bay. Sigmund, this one is very interesting. Playoffs, whatever. Of course, not for Carolina, but the play of Bryce Young, the confidence of that young man now. Chuba Hubbard getting rest on Wednesday. There actually was a practice, but he's the centerpiece of everything that they do. But it basically comes down to those guys going to Tampa and playing spoiler because they can. That's the type of football that Carolina is playing.
Yeah, they're relishing this role. They ended Arizona's season last week. They can not quite end Tampa's season, but make it very difficult for Tampa
Mhm.
to win the division. Bryce Young has upside as a quarterback, 2 superflex, maybe even a streamer here. Chuba Hubbard, as long as he plays. Last week, he won the week for you. He may do it again this week, although Tampa's defense, the run defense, is firming back up. It's one of the reasons you like Young a little better. And Adam Thielen as a high floor wide receiver 3 flex. Jalen Coker's there as what the heck flex. He had a beautiful one-handed touchdown catch last week that didn't count because it was right at the edge of the end zone. But the skills there. Jalen Coker, I said it about Keyshawn Butte. Jalen Coker should not be on the waiver wire. And Cease, I've been saying for weeks, I would love to see this Baker Mayfield Tampa team in the playoffs. But over a Michael Penix Atlanta team, well, made the best team get in the playoffs. You got to beat Carolina to have a chance to do that, Baker.
Yeah, Baker the baby maker. Can he do it with a lot of Bucky Irving, as much Bucky Irving as possible? Please and thank you. And Mike Evans, get him to 1,000 again, just because I don't want a season with Mike Evans playing football where he doesn't get 1,000 yards. And the late season surge of Jalen McMillan. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
And, Rashad White, whatever. The stars are Bucky, Mike, McMillan, and Baker.
Yeah, they are. And see, so I'll ask you, because Raheem Morris got a lot of questions. Why wasn't Bucky Irving on the field in the last 10 minutes of the game? Of course, it was Rashad White fumbling away the game, maybe fumbling away Tampa's playoff chances in hindsight, if we see how these last 2 weeks go. Do you think that means even more Bucky this week, that Raheem Morris is going to rectify that? Because he said, well, he's just our 2 minute back. Well, sometimes you go against what's on your little sheet when you got Bucky Irving.
Yeah, that's what it should be. So maybe a classic overcorrection.
Yeah.
Maybe as much Bucky as you can handle. Why not?
Right, right. Steer into the skid. It's winter driving time. And Evans is in. Jalen McMillan, I have as a wide receiver too. He just keeps scoring touchdowns. He's the clear number 2 receiver. It is Carolina, but the run defense is what you're going to attack. So Bucky Irving could be a key to your championship this week.
Yeah, another stinker, Tennessee and Jacksonville. Although the Tennessee side, we'll do them both at the same time,
Hmm.
Sigmund, but
Hmm.
the Tennessee side might have some players that you wouldn't normally
Yeah.
count on, because of this week 17. You're playing a championship, but Titans, Jaguars, what's it all for?
Right. For jockeying for position in the top 6, 7 of the draft. Mason Rudolph, he's going to throw a lot. So he's a quarterback to super flex play this week and throw a lot too. Chiggy Okonkwo. He's arrived, at least while Mason Rudolph is the quarterback and while the Titans season's rolling down the drain. Calvin Ridley remains wide receiver 3 flex. Tyjae Spears the play over Tony Pollard. Spears getting the short yardage touchdowns last week. Of course, explosive player in the passing game. On the Jacksonville side, just keep throwing to Brian Thomas Jr. Cease, we watch a lot of football, and there's some not so subtle football analysis that says, just get the ball to that guy. It's not that simple. It's not that simple. Well, with Brian Thomas Jr., it's that simple. It's that simple. If you have him, he's been the best rookie wide receiver, not just the best rookie wide receiver because he was a 7th round pick, the best rookie wide receiver in fantasy leagues. He's a top 5 wide receiver right now. And it's only going to get better with Trevor Lawrence. We'll see what head coach they bring in next year. This is really exciting. Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, both what the heck flexes, really. They keep vacillating. Some weeks a little more Bigsby, some weeks it's a little more uh, ATN. Bigsby can break those long touchdown runs. We saw him do it earlier this year. We saw Jonathan Taylor do it last week against this defense. Parker Washington in deep what the heck flex and PPR leagues. And Brenton Strange, no. Brenton Strange was basically benched in the second half after a fumble. So people are strange, and you need to put a stranger in your tight end if you were counting on Strange and survived last week.
Okay, what kind of analogies can we talk about with the Dolphins and the Browns up next? And again, yes, thank you for these stinkers, NFL. In the fantasy championship, where will you be relying on guys that maybe got you there, right? When Jerry Judy and Tyreek Hill and both sides. I just want Mike McDaniel. I wish the Dolphins would play as hard for Mike McDaniel as the Cowboys are playing as hard for Mike McCarthy, Bloom.
Right? You're right. And this is going to be a game actually to test that metal. You
Yep.
cannot play finesse football. A Dolphin in Cleveland in December turns to ice. So they're going to have to find some metal here. There might be some rain and wind of this game. Still going to play Jonnu Smith, one of the biggest success stories in fantasy football, with no Jalen Waddle. I mean, again, Tyreek Hill. Can you really live with benching Tyreek Hill and seeing him scoot away from this defense? Again, in week 17, motivation issues for Cleveland. Miami's still alive in the playoffs. Of course, it's Devin Achan, though, as many touches as he can handle. Maybe Raheem Mostert is a what the heck flex if they have to rely more on the running game and the conditions. Who's the quarterback going to be for Cleveland? Do we care? We kind of do. Now, I think it's going to be Bailey Zappi. If it's not Dorian Thompson Robinson, it could be Jameis Winston. If it's Winston, Jerry Judy's back in play. Uh, David Njoku already hamstring, now a knee, getting that tested. If he plays, hats off to him. CD Lamb saying, "Hey, the people bought tickets to see me play. I'm going to play through these injuries." If David Njoku's doing that, then that is a love letter to the fans of Cleveland, the only NFL team he's played for, because he's now playing through 2 injuries. Jerome Ford, that's the guy you have circled here. He's had 60-yard runs each of the last 2 weeks, no matter who the quarterback is, especially if it's rainy. He's a short, dump down target. It's going to be a dump in Cincinnati, Cleveland, Cincinnati, my brain. Yeah, this one, see, they should give you money if you go see this game instead of having to pay to go see it.
Right. All right. Free tickets, everybody. Please go. And here's your sign. Packers and Vikings, a good one we're going to talk about in a normal way. And the
Yeah,
Packers side first. First off, Christian Watson has a knee bruise. The reports say that he should be able to give it a go. So let's put a pin in that, and we'll watch that closely as Jordan Love and company travel to Minnesota, where the comfy confines of, I think it's still US Bank Stadium, which is fantastic. But the Packers side looks like Watson is going to play. Again, Thursday morning, we're
right.
recording this, but even with the knee bruise, look like Watson's got to give it a go. What do the Packers do in this important divisional matchup?
Yeah, and they can't win the division. Okay, they're really locked in basically to the 6th seed. Maybe they can get up to the 5 seed if Minnesota wins out. I don't know exactly how the scenarios work out, but at the same time, there's a reasonable chance that they're going to see this Minnesota team in the playoffs in 2 weeks. And the
Yep.
first game in Green Bay, Minnesota spanked them. And then Jordan Love put up a bunch of points in the second half and almost came back, made a game out of it. So that's the key here. Your Green Bay offense that you're projecting as the Malik Willis offense, right? Malik Willis showed the way. The quarterback doesn't have to throw more than 15 or 20 times. Against Minnesota, maybe more than 15 or 20 times. So Jordan Love is in play as a quarterback one. This game's indoors. You also have Josh Jacobs, who is up there with just about anybody at running back. Not the small running back, right? You've got Devin A. Chan and Jameer Gibbs and Kyron Williams. The little guys, Josh Jacobs says the big guys can still rule this position in December, and he's going to help get fantasy teams there in this one. I think if Green Bay's defense can hold down Minnesota, it's more of a Jacobs game. Jaden Reed should be in as an upside play. Romeo Dobbs, more of what the heck flex. I think if it's Watson and banged up, Watson and Wicks are going to split that role. Deep what the heck flexes. And then, of course, Tucker Kraft, who's really asserted himself. He has become somebody that everybody knows and loves to watch. And this is the game, Cease, like you said. You look at the only two games. You give us 16 games on every day of the week, but we can only have 2 games in the afternoon. One of them is Miami, Cleveland. The other one better be good. It is.
Yeah, it's really good, and I'll be watching. By the way, Tucker Craft, a little bit of a hip thing, but Luke Musgrave was held without a catch against the Saints.
Yeah.
So let's just wait for next year for the Oregon State Beaver. Minnesota side, we all know the names because you start them every week.
Yeah.
Do they flex their muscles though? Again, we're questioning motivations. Like you're going to face these guys in the playoffs, most likely. Divisional matchup. It's home though for Minnesota. So how much muscle flexing is going on?
Yeah. And I believe that Minnesota can lose this game and still end up the division champ and the number 1 seed if they beat Detroit next week. Don't quote me on that. But I think if you're Minnesota, if you're Kevin O'Connell, why would you do anything different? Why would you prepare? This is not like Buffalo. This is not like some of these teams where, okay, let's rest a little bit. We can ease up a little bit because we know the real mission is to come. Why would you change anything? Sam Darnold, a high floor quarterback one here. Aaron Jones, a high floor running back two. Justin Jefferson, a league winner. Jordan Addison. The really tough question here is TJ Hawkinson. We haven't seen him. There was one overtime game that we saw him getting open downfield and putting up some numbers. We haven't seen it since then. And honestly, with Jordan Addison emerging, lost in the Jackson Smith and Jigba stuff. Zay Flowers, speaking about little guys, Cease, last year, remember, it was 3 slot receivers as the top 3 receivers in the draft. We saw Zay Flowers break out as a rookie. Jackson Smith and Jigba has been one of the biggest stories in fantasy football this year. But Jordan Addison is also having a breakout of sorts and had a rough offseason, remember, getting arrested. Vikings very disappointed. No one disappointed if they took Jordan Addison and have him in their lineup in week 17.
Yeah, that's right. Another good one that we get to talk about regularly is the Falcons and the Commanders. And apologies to Kirk Cousins and, well, his agent Mike McCarthy, who doesn't like me. He'll be all right. Thank
That's a
you
long
for
list.
benching Kirk Cousins. Thank you. Thank you. Because now Falcons, you get a chance with Penix out there slinging it, man. Now, Drake London was held out of the second half for just health reasons, like just kind of precaution type stuff
Mm-hmm.
this past game. So I don't think fantasy GMs have much to worry about there. And it's Michael Penix, man. I want to see Penix versus Jaden Daniels. We get to see that. We'll talk about Jaden in a little bit. But let's talk about Penix and those Falcons, man. And the key there, of course, Bijan, and then Penix further developing. That bag of tricks is only starting to open up.
Yeah, he had a great game last week. Don't look at the numbers.
Right.
What's
Right.
fascinating about this, you mentioned the Cousins thing, Cease. This was all foreshadowed whenever it was clear that Kirk Cousins' feelings were hurt by the
Mm-hmm.
pick. And
Yeah.
it's okay that his feelings were hurt, but when you make sure everybody knows your feelings are hurt
Mm-hmm.
on draft night, you're not in the right mindset. Michael Penix is in the right mindset. He was at Costco getting $1.50 hot dog whenever he got the call that he's
I
starting.
think they're awesome.
Um, this is great, Cease. Who had on their bingo card that week 17, the marquee matchup the NFL would flex to Sunday night primetime slot would be 2 rookie quarterbacks? And get your popcorn out for this one. Michael Penix, a quarterback 2 super flex play for this one, I think. You've got a Bijan Robinson game, of course. Now, if Jaden Daniels does his thing, maybe not as much of a Bijan Robinson game or more of a Bijan Robinson game in the passing game. like you said with Drake London, we're watching this hamstring issue. He's still a wide receiver 3 flex at worst. But it's Darnell Mooney who's exciting here because we know that Michael Penix is a barnstorming, downfield, passing quarterback. One of the best ways I heard him described, he's a left-handed Phillip Rivers.
Mhm.
I mean, it just if you don't remember Phillip Rivers' game, what you loved about Phillip Rivers was just how fearless he was as a passer, as a downfield passer. Now, of course, Phillip Rivers didn't run in the 4.4s, so add that wrinkle. Let's see, because what has really limited this offense all year is how unimaginative the play calling has been. And even when Michael Penix was in, some of the different tells they had, if it's a pistol, it's going to be a run and things like that. So Zach Robinson, you can change things up now. This is your chance to get the drop. And of course, this is a game with playoff implications, as Atlanta really can't afford to lose. And they would lose the division lead to Tampa, assuming Tampa can beat Carolina. Notice I didn't mention Kyle Pitts. And yeah, we'll just leave that one there. See, the poking with the stick, do something. Not that. Don't juggle the ball to a defender. Do something, but not that, Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts. And just know this, call it a Lassie bark if you'd like, Bloom.
Hmm.
But that coaching staff in Atlanta has been waiting for this.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, they've been preparing almost 2 game plans.
Yeah.
What you can do with Kirk and what we want to do with Michael. So again, it's only just begun.
We've only just
And with
begun.
Jaden Daniels, we're here.
Yeah.
He's amazing. He's amazing. He is him. Just stay healthy. And if he does, the Commanders, you can beat anybody with Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, that's the thing, is it gives this team that magical thinking belief.
Yep.
Now, you did it against Chicago on a Hail Mary. You did it against Kenny Pickett. But still,
You did
like,
it.
you did it. And when it gets to the playoffs, and they still need to win to clinch their playoff spot, when it gets to the playoffs, if you believe, it is so much. And for everything we've seen from Jaden Daniels on the field, for everything we've seen from Jaden Daniels in fantasy football terms, I think it's things we don't get to see behind closed doors and what he transmits to this team and how this team has rallied around him. He's just the coolest customer, cool as the other side of the pillow. And you're feeling cool if you're waiting until Sunday night and he's in your lineup. Are you feeling cool if Brian Robinson in your lineup? 2 fumbles last week. I think Brian Robinson is going to be fine. I'm going to err on the side of playing Brian Robinson. I still have him around running back 20 this week. I think that he's going to atone for his mistakes. Terry McLaurin, no mistakes there. One of the best picks of the year in fantasy football. Lammey, Zacchaeus, maybe as a what the heck flex. And again, Zach Ertz. Got to get some more research here. What happened between Nick Sirianni and Zach Ertz? Anyway, I don't know if we'll put Zach Ertz in the lineup, but congratulations, NFL, for flexing the right game to the Sunday night slot.
I believe that Nick Sirianni's just a Dick Cheney. So you run into those sometimes. Yeah, and Aloha. You run into them sometimes. I wish this last game was what it was supposed to be,
Yeah.
because we're gonna do both at the same time.
Yeah.
Which, if you can tell by this schedule, like we've had a bunch of turds. And Monday night, I think this is another turd sandwich because it's Lions and 49ers. If this was what it was supposed to be, it would be an epic clash of the Titans. I can't believe we get to watch this. And now it's like, what else do I got going on Monday?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the one thing about this is because of the number of fantasy teams implicated, probably a lot of fantasy finals will not be decided until we see how this game goes. I think the next week is the more important game for Detroit for the number 1 seed. But again, do you see Dan Campbell as a guy going into the locker room before the game, be like, okay, guys, we can take it easy this week. Just relax. It's a game. It's on TV, but don't get hurt. No. So you're playing your Lions. Jared Goff, again, a high floor quarterback one. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jamison Williams after the 82-yard touchdown last week. Come on, you can't put him on your bench. Sam Laporta, I know it was a trick play, but still, Sam Laporta getting the touchdown last week. And then Jahmyr Gibbs. And again, they're not afraid of giving Jahmyr Gibbs the ball 30 times between receptions and carries. Brock Purdy's got a high ceiling. You might say Brock Purdy's top end range of outcomes here is similar to Jared Goff, just because a lot of the offense is going to be on his shoulders. I don't know if we're going to see Isaac Guerrero. I still think because of Detroit's offense, this is going to be a Brock Purdy game, not a running back game, not a running game. Guarando's still a flex play if he gets in there, as we saw Patrick Taylor not do very much. Deebo Samuel came back to life. It's probably enough to put him in your lineup. He's got some carries also with the 49ers down their top 2 running backs. Then you have Juwan Jennings, high floor play. Again, if you're projecting Brock Purdy to throw the ball 30, 35, 40, 45 times even with Detroit and how their offense can jump out to a lead. And then, of course, George Kittle. With everything and all the chaos in the 49ers, all the chaos at the tight end position, our one constant has been George Kittle. And George Kittle will be on a lot of fantasy teams and may help them bring home the title on Monday night as we sweat it out for another year.
All right, that is a wrap for the Week 17 preview here on the Audible. Sigmund Bloom, Cecil, Lammey. Follow us on all the social networking. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit this notification bell so that you never miss a vid as we continue to grow the channel. Watch these other videos that may magically pop up around us. And just thanks, man. Hope you have a great, safe, happy holiday season. He's Sig, I'm Cease. We are the Audible. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.